Hello and welcome back to Off the Post. In today's video we'll be discussing whether or not Nottingham Forest have won the transfer window this season, okay? But before that, as always, please like, comment, subscribe, it's very much appreciated and it goes a long way in helping me build a small community on my channel. We've recently just hit 165 subscribers and I just want to say a massive thank you for all you guys showing support on my videos, all the likes and the comments on social media as well. It definitely doesn't go unnoticed and I just want to say a massive thank you once again, really. But let's get straight into the episode, shall we? Starting off with the first player they signed on this list, okay? They signed Igor Jesus from Botafogo in the Brazilian league, okay? Now for me, it's a half decent signing, signing him for 19 million in total, so it's not really that much of a gamble, it's not really that much of a risk, if you like. Obviously 19 million isn't that much compared to what it used to be back in the day, 5-10 years ago at least anyways. And for me, Igor Jesus will come in and probably be second or first choice striker behind Chris Wood and another striker recently signed as well from Rennes. But for me, Igor Jesus, he's definitely got, a bit of ability in there. Don't get me wrong, he's a half decent player, but we spoke about him, a few weeks ago in one of my previous videos, so I don't want to go into too much detail about him and the next transfer I'm going to speak about. But for me, he definitely does add that pace, that height, that sort of ability to run in behind and all that sort of, be able to hold up the ball. So he's a half decent striker, just whether or not, he can adapt to the Premier League, obviously playing in the Brazilian league for Botafogo, scoring some half decent goals there for that club as well. So yeah, I don't mind the signing. Again, I haven't really watched him that much, so it just depends whether or not he can come in and sort of do the business straight away. But for me, I don't know whether he's going to get that much game time anyway under Nuno Santos. So it's a bit of a tricky one. He probably played cup competitions. But moving on now to the second player they signed, his Brazilian partner, his Brazilian centre-back, Javier Kuna. Hopefully I've said that right, probably pronounced it wrong. You should know me by now. I'm really bad at pronouncing people's names. I do apologise. I'm trying to get better, and I feel like I have over recent weeks now that I'm recording these videos. But yeah, Javier Kuna also played for Botafogo in the Brazilian league. Again, he's sort of one of these ones that they're taking a bit of a risk on. Signed him for 12 million, so again, not really that much of a gamble. He's going to be back up for Morello and Milinkovic anyway. He's not going to start ahead of those two. So again, it's not really that much of a risk. It's not that much of a gamble. For me, it's always a bit of a tricky one buying players from the Brazilian league because, you've either got really high, exciting potential, or they're sort of, not that great. They don't turn out to be that great. So there's not really much middle ground when you buy people from the Brazilian league. That's my opinion anyway, at least, Don't get me wrong, you had a few players here and there, but it's sort of a tricky one to sort of question their ability and how well they can adapt to the Premier League. It is a bit of a tricky one for my personal opinions anyways. So, Javier Kuna probably will come in and sort of, take to the Premier League, as well as a Morello, as well as a Milinkovic, because hopefully those two players can sort of teach him how to adapt to the league, how to come up and how to defend against these strikers in the Premier League, and how to come up against these wingers and midfielders and all that sort of good stuff. He's definitely got some good teachers in those two defenders at the club already. So for me, it is good backup. He will come in and sort of play those cup competitions, those FA Cup games, those Carabao Cup games and whatnot. I feel like these two Brazilian players are decent backups to sort of add to their squad depth of for Nottingham Forest, sorry. So yeah, we should have to wait and see how they can adapt to the league. Okay, moving over to the third player on this list, they signed Dan Ndoye from Bologna for 42 million. Okay, now for me, obviously signing from the Syria, he looks like an exciting talent. Obviously at the age of 24, he's a right winger, sort of replacing Anthony Elanga, if you like. And he's came in and he scored a debut goal, didn't he? He's come into the team and sort of slot in seamlessly. He has done. Don't get me wrong, it's only one game. I don't want to hype him up too much. But at the moment, it looks like money well spent for Dan Ndoye. And for me, at the age of 24, he's ready to tear up the league. He's an elite Dan Ndoye. Don't get me wrong, he might not have, as similar attributes to Anthony Elanga. He probably isn't as fast as him. Probably doesn't have that much good dribbling ability compared to Anthony Elanga. However, he comes in, he's offering a goal threat straight away. He's taking on players. He's, linking up with the midfielders, linking up with the forwards and Chris Wood, getting in some goals as well. So for me, overall, so far so good, isn't it, for Dan Ndoye? We'll just have to wait and see how he gets on for the rest of the season. But for me, he does look like an exciting player, an exciting winger in there. So maybe he sort of wants to watch. Maybe he can become like an underrated player for Nottingham Forest attack. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay, moving over now to the fourth player on this. They've signed James McAtee from Man City for 25.5 million, okay? Obviously, this was a recent deal that happened, I want to say, a few days ago, okay? Now, for me, this is such an underrated player to sign for Nottingham Forest. It definitely does add that squad depth into the midfield, and they probably do need, one or two other midfielders in there. And James McAtee, right, he's such an exciting player, breaking through into that Manchester City team. Obviously, coming through the Manchester City academy, he's got bags of ability. And don't get me wrong, He definitely does have bags of ability. However, is he being a little bit overhyped at Man City just because he's one of their own, if you like? Now, for me, I just don't know whether or not James McAtee will get into that, starting three in midfield. For me, I'm not too sure. Will he get into the midfield ahead of the likes of, Morgan Gibbs-White, Elliot Anderson? I'm just not too sure. However, it's fantastic squad depth for Nottingham Forest. They're going to be trying to be competing again for, European places. And when you have so many cup competitions, when you have so many games you've got to play throughout the season, James McAtee will definitely, start in that midfield, and he won't look out of place in there, will he? Because he does have bags of ability still. He's good at passing, he's got a decent dribbling ability. He's, got half decent speed for a midfielder. I just don't know if he's good enough, defensively or not. I don't know if he can, I don't know if he's got, that much potential left in his game. I don't know if he's going to, jump leaps of bounds, if you like, and sort of become a world-class midfielder. I feel like he's sort of a steady Eddie in that sort of midfield for Manchester City, at least. When he was playing for Manchester City, he didn't really put up any trees, if you like. He didn't really do enough to sort of be a standout midfielder in there. Don't get me wrong, it's a little bit hard when you've got, world-class players around you, but at the same time, do those world-class players make James McAtee look a little bit better than he actually is? I'm not too sure. We'll have to see if he can bring out his ability in that Nottingham Forest side. That's what I'm just trying to get out. That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. I'm not too sure whether or not if he's a little bit overhyped because he was playing with better players. I'm not too sure. Okay, moving over now to the fifth player on this list. They've recently just signed Omari Hutchinson for 37 million from Ipswich Town. Okay, now for me, I really like this player. He was so exciting for Ipswich Town last season. He was probably one of their better players, their most influential players in the league. However, he just didn't do enough. He didn't get enough goal and assist contributions to, keep him in the Premier League and whatnot. For me, I absolutely like this player. He's got a bags of ability. He definitely can go leaps and bounds. He can definitely get, a little bit better. He can definitely progress in the league and become a mainstay player in the Premier League. However, signing Omari Hutchinson for 37 million, is that a little bit overpriced? For me, it is, just because when you think about some of the recent deals, like a Jacob Ramsey going for 39 million to Newcastle United, he was a mainstay. He's a solid player in the Premier League. And then when you're signing Omari Hutchinson for the same price, near enough, is it a little bit too expensive from that point of view? Signing a good Premier League player in Jacob Ramsey to Newcastle, and then you're spending the same money for a player that got relegated. I know it sounds a little bit harsh, but for me, you're spending 37 million on potential at the end of the day. He just didn't do enough to keep him in the league. Don't get me wrong, there's still bags of ability. There's still definitely room to improve. There's definitely room to grow and get better. However, again, where's Omari Hutchinson going to fit in that Nottingham Forest team? Is he going to be in that midfield three? Is he going to be on one of the wings? Can he be a backup to Dan Ndoye on that right-hand side? Or can he play on the left? Maybe can he replace Callum Hudson-Odoi on that side as well? He's definitely a player who's definitely got that versatility to his game. So for me, you probably will see him more in that midfield three. But I wouldn't be too surprised if he can play either wing or not as well. So you'd have to let me guys know in the comments down below where you think Omari Hutchinson will play in that Nottingham Forest team, okay? How Nuno will sort of want to use him and whatnot. Okay, moving over now to the sixth player left signed on this list, and that is Arnold Calamando, okay, the French striker from Rennes. Now for me, this guy is fantastic. They've signed him for 30 million, okay. Now for me, he is such an exciting player from League One, okay. He scored 17 goals and got 3 assists last season. In total, combining 20 goal contributions last season. For me, he was so exciting. I think he was I want to say, 4th or 5th or maybe even 6th on top goal scorers in League One last season. And for me, he's got it all. He's potentially a Chris Wood regen, okay. He's probably the perfect striker like Nottingham Forest could sign to sort of play, second fiddle to Chris Wood. And he can learn a lot from Chris Wood and how he wants to play, because he's still scoring bags of goals at the age of, 31, 32 maybe. Recently scoring 2 goals, absolutely taking those goals exceptionally well as well. For me, when you talk about Arnold Calamando, okay, He's got the height. He's like 6'5". He's got the speed. He's got the ability to hold up the ball. He can dribble past players as well. You know, he can play a number of roles in that number 9 position. He can be a target man. He can run in behind the striker. He can hold up the ball. He can do all this sort of stuff. He's got so many good attributes to his game. Don't get me wrong, he might be a little bit raw coming from League One, of course. So it might take him a little bit longer to sort of get into that squad, become like, you know, a first team regular, especially when you got Chris Wood ahead of you. And it doesn't look like he's going to drop off his form anytime soon, Chris Wood. So from that point of view, you know, Arnold Calamando might sort of take a little bit of time to get up to speed, and it's a little bit of a tricky one when you're buying players from League One as well, like I mentioned in the Brazilian league. For me, when you're buying strikers, you know, it's a bit of a tricky one because obviously, let's say for the likes of Crystal Palace a few seasons ago, they signed, what was his name from Celtic? Obviously, he came from League One. When you think of someone like Eduardo from Crystal Palace, hopefully I said his name right, that French striker, obviously he played for Celtic back in the day, but he did come through League One, of course. I think he might play for PSG or someone like that back in the day, I'm not too sure. But when you think about someone like him, you know, he had a lot of expectation when he signed for Crystal Palace, and he just sort of, he didn't really hit the ground running, and he sort of just like peeled out his career at Crystal Palace, and now he's sort of like a, you know, backup number 2, number 3 type player for Crystal Palace. So it's always a tricky one when you're buying strikers, especially strikers, because, you know, goals win your games, and that's what you need. And if your striker's not providing the goals, what's he there for? You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, there's more to football than just scoring goals. However, you need goals to win your games, don't you, like I've previously just said. Hopefully Arnold Calamando can sort of come in and score a good 5 to 10 goals in the first season, you know, in the Premier League. I feel like that would be a good season for him because he's going to be backup striker. He's needs Chris Wood. He's not going to be, you know, in the first team straight away. So if he can score, you know, 5 to 10 goals as a backup, that would be a good season because you expect him to play in the FA Cup, you expect him to play in the Carabao Cup, maybe in Europe as well. But yeah, obviously signing for 30 million, that is like, it's good money, isn't it? It's good value for that player because he's scoring goals every single season. He's scoring goals, you know, for Rennes, for other League One sides as well. He was on loan to a League One side. I can't remember the name, but he's been scoring goals now for a good 2 or 3 seasons. And I'm pretty sure he did come through PSG as well, but then he got sold, didn't he? So, you know, he's definitely got pedigree in the world of football for me. And I do like this signing. I feel like give it another, I want to say 1 or 2 seasons, and he will be starting for Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. But however, this season now, he probably will have to play second fiddle. And, you know, it might be a little bit of a similar situation with the likes of Aston Villa last season when they had obviously star striker Ollie Watkins sort of in and out the side because of John Duran. You might see the same thing with Nottingham Forest with Chris Wood scoring the goals, but Arnold Calamando might be a little bit, you know, he might get a little bit frustrated because he might not be in the first team straight away and he might have to sit on the bench for a little while. However, it's a good option to have. It's a good backup option to have when, you know, let's say if Chris Wood is out injured or whatever, for example. Hopefully he's not, touch wood, but no pun in there, of course. But hopefully he can come in and sort of, you know, do the business anytime Chris Wood misses a game for whatever reason. So yeah, it is fantastic business. For me, when we talk about obviously, you know, whether or not Nottingham Forest have won the summer transfer window, it's a bit of a tricky one because obviously you got the likes of Liverpool in there, you got Arsenal, you got Man City. However, there might be like 4th on the list. I can't think of any other teams that have had better transfer windows in the Premier League other than the 3 I've mentioned. So maybe they might be 4th or 5th on the list. Obviously, we'll have to, you know, discuss that in the comments down below. Let me guys know what you think of Nottingham Forest's transfer window. Okay, how do you feel about James McAtee as a signing? Was you know, is he a little bit overhyped because of, you know, playing for Man City and whatnot? Do you feel like Omari Hutchinson is a little bit overpriced? Do you feel like Dan and Dor is a fantastic replacement for Anthony Elanga? How would you feel about Arnold Calamando, you know, playing second fiddle to Chris Wood? Do you think he can overtake him in a couple of years' time? How would you feel about the 2 Brazilian signings as well? Are they just squad depth to add to the, you know, playing the cup competitions and all that sort of good stuff? But yeah, I just want to say, you know, a massive thank you guys for watching my video, but before that, as always, please like, comment, subscribe, it's very much appreciated. We've recently just hit 165 subscribers, and I just want to say a massive thank you for all you guys showing support on my videos, all the likes and the comments as well. It definitely doesn't go unnoticed, and I just want to say a massive thank you again. I really do feel like we're building such a fantastic community now, aren't we? I'm getting so many comments on my recent videos. I just want to keep that support and I want to keep on growing this channel as much as I can. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.